Hi there, Magdalena here from the Creative Photography School, and this is video part number 5 of the 6-part mini video series. And today we will finally talk about exposure again and how all the 3 components are linking together to come up with your perfectly exposed image. Just to recap, exposure is basically the amount of light that travels through your lens or through your camera and hitting your sensor. And it also describes the brightness of a scene in your image. So the components that make up exposure are aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. And all 3 of them we've discussed already in the previous videos. But it's not only that these are controlling the amount of light coming into your camera and hitting the sensor, or how the sensor treats that light, they are all also having a creative effect. So as discussed already in previous video, the shutter speed is for movement and the aperture is for depth of field, and ISO creates digital noise, which is not really a creative effect, but it has a quality effect of your image, obviously. Basically, what exposure triggers in the is a decision-making process in your mind, so in the photographer's mind. You need to think about, do I want shallow depth of field? Do I want movement? Do I want both? How is the light in my scene? Can I have both? How can I achieve what I want to do with my image? So basically, it creates an intention. As you can see in this triangle, it really tells you what effect you have if you're choosing, for example, a shallow depth of field in aperture, you need to adjust shutter speed and ISO. If you're choosing to record movement, you need to adjust your aperture and ISO on the other hand. So you need to play around, but in any given light situation, if you decrease your aperture by 1 stop and also adjust your shutter speed by 1 stop, nothing has changed. The light situation is still the same. The amount of light that hits the sensor is still exactly the same, but you have a creative difference. So all really exposure is a compromise. You have to decide, you have to make a decision what the scene at hand, what light it is, and then what kind of creative effect you want to have in your image. And yes, it sounds all really, really complicated at the moment, but I think over time, when you get the grips of it, it really opens up a whole lot of creative possibilities, and it creates an intention. So you're not just snapping away, you're creating an intention for your photography and for that particular image. It means something. It might just mean something to you, and another photographer would do a totally different thing in that scene, in that same scene, but it's up to you, obviously. What are your intentions? You are making the image work. So you can see in the image now, I create the scene with a shallow depth of field. I wanted to really make the subject stand out and have a lot of blur in the background. So basically, I had to use a very large aperture, which is obviously the very small f-stop number, to create that shallow depth of field. But therefore I had to, because obviously it was a day, it was not bright, but it was still quite a lot of light around. So I had to adjust my shutter speed to make it really, really fast, so that all the amount of light that comes into my camera doesn't all hit the sensor, but the shutter closes fast enough that only a fraction of that light actually hits the sensor. And I wanted to obviously not increase my noise levels as much, so I left the ISO quite low. In the next image, you can see the same scene, the same lighting situation, just creatively it looks completely different, doesn't it? I wanted to have a slower shutter speed, so I wanted to create more movement in my image. Because I wanted to have slower shutter speed, so more light would hit the sensor. So I had to decrease the hole size that the light comes in. So the amount of light that actually came in was decreased, but the amount of light that hit the sensor was increased. So it kind of was exactly the opposite of the previous situation. But as you can see, the creative effect of the image is a completely different story. ISO levels I kept unchanged because I didn't want to increase the noise level. So you can see you can really play with this. You can really, with exposure, you can really get your head around the decision making and really create a purpose and an intention for your image. So that was really it for exposure. How exciting. But don't be afraid. Obviously, you know, these are 3 components that you need to control, and that's quite, you need to first maybe pick out one that you want to learn more in depth and then leave the other ones to the side at the moment. And you can do that with a different shooting mode. So I will show you in the video number 6, I will talk you through the different shooting modes that you have at your disposal, and obviously how you can then have different controls with it. And it really, you don't have to go all full manual from the get-go. You may, or you can, but you don't have to. There are in-betweens, but you should move away a little bit from that full automatic where the camera basically makes all those decisions that we just discussed, all those decisions for you, so you have no control whatsoever. So move a little bit away from that. There are modes that you can use in between. So yeah, I will talk you through all that in video number 6, which is the conclusion of our 6-part mini video series. So definitely stay tuned and watch that last video of this series. Along the way, if you have been trying out different images, why not share them on the Facebook group? Would love to see you there and get your images and see how you're doing, get your feedback. Maybe you have a question that I didn't answer in my video. Feel free to post it in the group. Someone, me or somebody else, will definitely help you. We are creating a community, so definitely check it out, and I will see you in the next video, so stay tuned. Thank you for watching.